So back in 2012, I was approached by Techland, who were just beginning to work on Dying Light, and they had this great idea of adding this competitive multiplayer mode to the game. The player versus zombie mode is a mode in which you are playing your game as a single player or in co-op mode, and all of a sudden you will receive a message on the screen that the hunter is invading. This is an opportunity for you to experience a very different type of gameplay, where one of the opponents in the game, one of the zombies, is controlled by a human being, which adds a completely different dimension to your gameplay. This invasion can only happen at night, so the night is already a time where the player has to work really hard and becomes prey, as opposed to the hunter. This is an additional escalation of this, where the hunter becomes much harder to track because it's no longer an AI. It's someone who actually thinks and strategizes against you. You always play as one zombie. You have only one character to play with, and you can upgrade it. There is a skill tree for the hunter that as you win your games, then you get extra abilities that help you progress and tackle more advanced or better, more leveled up character. Because we're going to obviously have a matchmaking system where the game is going to try to match beginning zombies with beginning players and more advanced ones against more advanced ones. Basically, the story gets suspended while the invasion takes place. The invasion itself is not integral part of the story at all. It's kind of on the side, but we try to make sure that it can happen at any time or at most times during the story. So these have not been defined, but we know for sure that there will be certain crafting ingredients that you can only get from defeating the hunter. So there's certain weapons that can only be obtained if you actively take part in those missions. The human player has one very special tool whose importance cannot be overestimated, and that's the UV light. That's the only way they can effectively combat the hunter. The hunter is a very agile character that can jump at you from a long distance at moment's notice. You do have ways to track the hunter, but that's not enough for you to defend yourself. Once you know that the hunter is coming or where he is, then your only way of making sure that you can effectively combat it is to shine the UV light at it to drain its stamina or energy. That will eventually bring it to a state where it can no longer jump and rope locomote. We call it rope locomotion, when they can use their tendrils to cover large distances in a similar way of locomoting as Spider-Man. But in order for you to stop the hunter from being able to do that, you have to use your UV light to drain his stamina, and at that point you can actually go into a melee combat with the hunter to finish him off. He does respawn, but your kill means that before he respawns you have this extra time to go after the hives, which is the ultimate way of defeating it. Most recently we have had a lot of fun from trying to use the environment of Dying Light world in our combat. Because that world has been designed primarily with single-player campaign in mind, there are some incongruities between the two modes, and sometimes there's something we have to fix, and other times it's something that benefits our gameplay. So the fun part recently that was cool we found was using the spikes in a game. If you time your attacks against the hunter well, you can impale him on the spikes, and vice versa. The hunter has got this ground pound attack, which sends a shockwave and throws the player a certain distance back, and if the spikes happen to be behind, you get impaled on those. So we've really enjoyed that part. We've added extra camera work to kind of sell this moment and explain to both parties what happens and make it even more awesome. The hunter has this one kill attack called a pounce, intuitively, and with that kill, the hunter can kill you in just one pounce, but they need to have full stamina to do this, and just the nick of the UV light prevents them from doing that. So that's why your UV light is so important. So this is obviously the rope locomotion is one part. He also can sprint and jump very high. So locomotion-wise, he's unmatched by the humans. He can basically run around circles around the humans. The hunter also will have spits. We call them spits, although I think the final version is not going to involve spitting anything. It's going to mean throwing things with your forearms. So these two spits of grenade attacks, one of them will disable the human flashlight, and the other one is going to call in the horde of zombies on the player, which is also a great addition to the gameplay. We find it, both sides find it quite a lot of fun being hit by it, where all of a sudden these zombies come at you, run really fast and explode. So the only way of getting out is jump up at the nearest roof to get out of range. It's competitive multiplayer. There will be people who play zombie games because they like smashing zombies, but this is an opportunity for them to experience the same smashing zombies in a very different dimension, when one of those zombies can be a human-controlled character, so much smarter.